everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial for the Dark Angels. Yes, the first Legion returned to the channel once more, and we are painting Belial, the Grand Master of the Deathwing. Sent to me early by Games Workshop as part of the Deathwing Assault Army set, and, well, a massive thank you to them for this, because we've done loads of Dark Angels here on the channel, and, well, we should not ever stop with that tradition. So, we are going to jump in and start painting him. I'm not going to waffle on for too long. Now, he has been primed in Wraithbone, and the colour we're going to be using first is a roughly 3 parts Dark Angels green to 1 part Lahmian medium mix. And it's actually 6 to 2, but 3 to 1 is how we've done it. So I've taken 6 brushfuls of that and 2 of that, but 3 to 1 sounds better. The reason for this is we want to massively improve the flow as we apply this over the massive outside of the cloak and the inner robe. So we're going to start with the outside of the cloak here, and we're just going to load up our medium layer brush. We're going to get right in there, and we're just going to start applying this all over the cloak, just like this. Now, the outside of the cloak is actually darker than this, so we don't need this to be a 100% smooth coat, but it's nice to get it as smooth as we possibly can by just using these big broad brush strokes to apply this, taking it quite methodically, making sure you don't have too much on the brush, and just mopping it up as you go along and moving it around if you need to. If you get this anywhere else, don't worry too much, because you can always go back in with some Wraithbone. Dark Angels green is an annoying paint to use because it can get a little bit out of control. So just take your time here.
And whilst we're applying all that Dark Angels green, it's a good time to tell you about our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Serious Readers. I've talked about them in the past, so you guys already know I really believe in their stuff. So when Serious Readers asked me to check out their high definition Gemini table light, you know I absolutely had to. It uses all the same great stuff as their floor light, especially their proprietary daylight wavelength technology to replicate the daylight spectrum as closely as technically possible, which makes a big difference on your eyes. The biggest feature here though is that it's not 1, but 2 light engines on separate flexible arms, giving you optimal coverage of your painting space, a light source to share with someone else, or a perfect setup for taking photos of your miniatures. They're built right here in the UK, as Serious Readers is a British company pioneering research into improving sight through shedding better light, relying on replicating the natural daylight spectrum that our eyes have evolved to use. They offer a 5-year warranty and are recommended by over 500 independent opticians. They're also super cool folks with excellent customer service, so much so that when I asked for a colder bulb, they sent me one, or in this case 2, along with 2 diffusers to make my life even better. Check out Serious Readers today, and if you pick one up and use offer code SR490, you can get £100 off high definition lights and free delivery. Find out more in the links below.
So With that Dark Angels green and Lamian medium mix applied to all of the robes, including the hood and all that kind of thing, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Terradon Turquoise and we're going to apply this over the top of his cloak, and that's it, not over the top of the inner robes. So with that Terradon Turquoise applied, what we're then going to do is take some Biel-Tan Green, and I'm going to use this to shade the tabard and the hood. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Sigvald Burgundy. I'm going to apply this to the inside of the robes. With that Sigvald Burgundy applied, we're then going to take some Volupus Pink, and we use this to shade our Sigvald Burgundy. So we're just going to paint this all over the top. So with that all done, we're now going to move on to the next most important base coat here, which is going to be some Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to use this over the top of all of Belial's armour. So with that all done, things are definitely starting to take shape. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red, and we're going to apply this over a number of different details. So we're going to start up here on the heraldic plate. Like this sort of thing. We want to get this over everywhere here, excluding the little halo bit at the top, just there. Ooh, gone overboard a little bit. Just quickly wash the brush. Just tidy that up a bit. So we will do the other wing as well. Like so. Then what we're also going to do is we're going to apply this over the top of both the scabbards. Like so. I'm going to apply this over the top of the rope. Like that. We do have the tassels to do, but for the sake of time, we're also going to apply this over the top of the crossed swords. Down here. On the leg. Like that. And we're also going to apply this over the top of the sword up here and over the top of the sword on his pauldron. So with that now done, we're then going to take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this over the top of the soft wraps on the weapons. There's the handle of the sword just here, and of course on the Sword of Silence itself. And we're also going to apply this over the top of any of the soft joints. I was going to say details. Soft joints in the armour. Like so. With that then done, we're going to take some Cygor Brown. And we're going to apply this over the top of the leather straps. With that Cygor Brown all applied, we're then going to take some Baal Red. I'm going to use this over the top of the casing of the Stormbolter. And with that Baal Red applied, we're then going to take a little bit of Fyreslayer Flesh and we're going to apply this over the top of Belial's face. Another thing we're going to do with the Fyreslayer Flesh is we're going to apply this over the top of the scabbards. So with that Fyreslayer Flesh applied, we're now going to take some Targor Rageshade. We're going to apply this over the top of this sort of Crux Terminatus-y logo design type thing. And so with that now done, we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade and we're going to apply this over the top of the paper. Just like that. And what we're also going to do with the Agrax Earthshade is we're going to run this into the recesses around the bolter. With that now done, we want to take some Nuln Oil and we're going to apply this over the top of the white details. So this is going to be up here, the wings, like that. And like that. And similarly, here on the shoulder. Like so. Got the various little halos that we haven't done as well. Got that one there. Got this one here as well. So with that all done, it is now time to work on the metallics. And the first of these is going to be some thinned down Retributor Armour. I'm going to start here on the sword scabbard, and we're basically going to apply this over the top of any non-armour adjacent trimmy details, because that is actually going to be a third metallic on here. It's just ever so slightly different in tone. So for the gold, what we're looking for is we're looking for the scabbard and the weapons and things. But for anything like the trim on the shoulders or around his head, looking to do a different colour. So with all that Retributor Armour applied, as you can see, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Castellax Bronze, and we're going to apply this over the top of the bolt shells first and foremost. In the magazine. Like so. And then we're also going to apply this over the top of all of the armor trim. Now it might seem like it's a little bit dark, and that's because it is, but this is going to form a really nice base for our brassier look. Which is going to add some really awesome definition. With all that Castellax Bronze applied, it's looking pretty good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do something I've forgotten to do, which is to take some Volupus Pink. I'm going to apply this over the top of the wax seal down there like that, but we're also going to use this to shade the rope. And so with that done, magically the barrels have now been drilled, so hold your comments. And next up, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down a Leadbelcher, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the remaining details. So with that all done, we've got all of our base coats on Belial. He's looking pretty good. However, we now need to add some shades. The first of these is going to be some Gryph-Charger Grey. And we're going to apply this over the top of the sword blade. With that Gryph-Charger Grey applied, we're then going to take some Nuln Oil. I'm going to use this to shade all of our remaining silver. Just like that. And so with that Nuln Oil applied, we're then going to take some Reikland Fleshshade. We're going to apply this over top of the gold and the bronze. So with those shades applied, Belial is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready, and he's already looking pretty good. However, we are not going to leave him there, of course not. We're going to take him to the next level. We're going to do this by actually adding another shade, also some sort of layers, and also some highlights. So the shade is some Agrax Earthshade, and what we want to do here is, if you want to do this, this is entirely optional. We're going to use this to add a little bit of recess shading to all the armor. So we can just, for example, up here, just run a small amount of Agrax Earthshade into the recesses around the armor, like that sort of thing. Just going to wash the brush and just pick up those little mistakes there. There we go. This is why it's optional, because this can be quite annoying to do. However, if you do make a mistake and you don't realise it at the time, or indeed you do need to neaten anything up, because of how bright this is, you can just use a tiny bit of Screaming Skull just to neaten it up. And as you can see, like, just adding that small amount of Agrax Earthshade can really make these armor panels and recesses pop. So with that recess shading applied, as you can see, we've got a little bit more definition on all of that armor. It looks absolutely fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to highlight it. I'm going to be using some thinned down Pallid Wych Flesh for this. I'm just going to start here. On the knee. So with all that Pallid Wych Flesh applied, we're then going to take some thinned down white scar. I'm going to use this to do, well, quite a bit of highlighting. So what we're going to do is we're going to firstly use this to add some little spot highlights to all the armor. So we're just going to pick out the corners, just like that. Any of the sharpest details that you want to add a little bit of extra oomph to. So for example, just the top of that circle, just there like that, and there like that. Then what we're also going to do, we're going to also use this to highlight a little Targor Rageshade area down here. Like that sort of thing. And we're also going to use this naturally to highlight any of the areas that we just did with Nuln Oil, so all of the white bits, so like these wings and all little halos and things. So with that all done, we're now going to work on the next big area, which is of course the cloaks and things. We're going to start with the inner warmer green, and the colour we're going to be using to highlight these is some thinned down Warpstone Glow. This is going to be the hood, the tabard, and his skirts. With all that Warpstone Glow applied, we're then going to take some Moot Green. I'm going to use this to pick out the sharpest bits on that inner robe and hood. So with that done, the inner green robe is now finished. So we're going to work on the cloak. And the colour we're going to be using first for this is some thinned down Cabalite green. I'm just going to use this to highlight all the edges. With all that Cabalite green applied, we're now going to take some thinned down Sybarite green. I'm going to use this to pick out, once again, the sharpest points in this green cloak. So with that now done, both greens are now finished. And I think that one looks spectacular. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on the inside of the cloak, but also on the scabbards of our two swords. And the colour we're going to be using to highlight these is some thinned down Wazdaka Red. I'm just going to start just here. And with that Wazdaka Red all applied, what we're then going to do is move on to all the rest of the red details, excluding the bolter, because that's going to be, again, a different red colour. But what we're going to do for the rest of it is we're going to highlight these details, such as these wings here, using some thinned down Wild Rider Red. So with all that Wild Rider Red applied, we then take some thinned down Fire Dragon Bright, and we use this to do two things. Firstly, we use this to add little spot highlights to the red details we've just done with Wild Rider Red. Like that sort of thing. But what we're also going to do with the Fire Dragon Bright is we're going to use this to highlight the bolter. that done, all of the red is now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Blood Reaver Flesh. I'm going to use this to highlight the leather details. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Flayed One Flesh, and we're going to use this to highlight Belial's face. And with that done, we're then going to take a tiny little bit of Black Legion. I'm going to apply this over the top of his eyes. And with that Black Legion applied, we then take a teeny tiny little dot of Screaming Skull. And we apply this in the corners of his eyes. So with that done, just for fun, what we're going to do now is we're going to do something a little bit tricky on the sword here. We're going to do that little bit of a blended effect that's going on the swords. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Black Templar and Lahmian Medium, and we're going to apply some blends. So we're going to start on this side of the sword from the bottom going up. So we just want to apply the Black Templar and Lahmian Medium just here. We want to bring it up to around about there, like that. We want to then wash the brush, touch off the water, and then we want to blend it out into our shaded Leadbelcher, like that. Then on the other side, we want to do the same thing, but coming from the top down. Like that. Wash the brush. And then blend it in. Like that. So with that done on the sword blade on both sides, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Leadbelcher. I'm going to thin it down with 5 or 6 parts water so it's nice and thin. See, it's like kind of like that glaze consistency there on the thumb. And then just on the opposite areas where we haven't done our Black Templar, we're going to apply the Leadbelcher as a glaze and wash the brush, and then just feather it together just to create that little kind of shiny blend. Same again just here. Like so. Wash the brush. And then blend the two together. And don't worry if it's all kind of separating on your palette. It's okay. with that now done to the sword, it's looking pretty cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to highlight the sword and all the other silver details using some thinned down Iron Breaker. So with that all done, we can now move on to the next colour, which is going to be some thinned down Rune Lord Brass. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the brass, well, Castellax Bronze. With that Rune Lord Brass applied, we're then going to take some thinned down Liberator Gold. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the gold. And so with that done, we've just got one last thing to do to finish off Belial, which is to take some Blood Angel's Red and apply this over top of all of his gems. Got one just there. Then we've got 4 on the sword. So with that all done, Belial is now finished. I think he looks incredible. I'm really, really pleased with him, especially that sword. I think that looks fantastic. Look at the way it catches the light. So what we're going to do now is we're going to quickly work on his base. And it looks complex, but it's actually pretty simple. So we're going to start with some Ratling Grime. I'm going to apply this all over the top of our skeleton. Once all that Ratling Grime is dry, what we're going to do is we're going to paint in the flames. And we're going to do a little bit of a sort of OSL thing going on here around the inside area of this blackened skeleton. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be firstly doing the flames with Gryph-Hound Orange, Iyanden Yellow and Black Templar. And then we're also going to be using some Magmadroth Flame here. But I'll show you how we do that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some Iyanden Yellow. I'm going to apply this over the top of the flames, just like this. There's no need to stand on ceremony here. It doesn't need to be neat or anything. You just want to throw it on there. Bring it up on the man a little bit. Then we grab some Gryph-Hound Orange. And from the top here, we're going to add the Gryph-Hound Orange in, like that. And then similarly, we're going to add some on the man, just around where the light is, just like this. So you want to keep it at this angle, right? So just so it makes sense that it's reflecting off of that. We're going to wash the brush one more time. Grab a little bit of Black Templar. I'm going to apply this to the tips of the flames up here. And unsurprisingly, we're not going to go up onto the man here, because we don't need to. Need just a little bit more Black Templar for this bit. It's just giving me a bit of trouble. There we go. Perfect. Then we're going to wash the brush once more time. Grab a little bit of Magmadroth Flame. And then we're going to add this at the point that's closest to the fire. Wash the brush one more time. A little bit more Magmadroth. Just like that. Wash the brush. Grab a little bit more Iyanden Yellow. And you can just use this to blend all those colours together. Just like that. So with that all done, it is still drying at the moment, but it looks pretty darn cool. And it'll dry even darker than this as it comes down, but I really like that. I think it looks great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Agrax Earthshade and we're going to apply this over the top of the parchment, just like we did on the boy himself. So with that now done, we're then going to take some Volupus Pink. I'm going to apply this over the top of the wax seal. And with that done, we then take some Targor Rageshade. We're going to apply this over the top of the rock upon which he stands. With that Targor Rageshade applied, we then take some Cygor Brown. I'm going to apply this over the top of any of the soil. So that Cygor Brown all applied, we now need to add a little bit of extra shading and a little bit more OSL fire. But we waited till here to do this so that we can do the colours over the top of colours. So what we're going to do is we're going to take Agrax Earthshade and Magmadroth Flame. And well, some of it's easier than others. So with the Magmadroth Flame section, for example, just around here, we want to add a little bit of extra glow around the base of the soil, just there. Like that sort of thing. And similarly on the stone here, we want to add a little bit of this Magmadroth Flame like that on the inside edge. However, what we're going to do is wash the brush and then over the top of this we're going to add the Agrax Earthshade like that. Wash the brush one more time. And then carry it on like so. Just going to flip the model around a little bit. As you can see, we get a very soft glow of orange on the inside of that rock. And then we're going to shade the rest of the rock. Like that. Similarly, back here, we want to add a little bit of Magmadroth Flame around the base of these flames. Like that. Wash the brush, grab a little Agrax, then blend it like that. With that now done, we're going to colour in all that negative space using some Sterling Mud. But of course you could do this any colour you wanted to match the bases with the rest of your army. Once all that sterling mud is applied and dried, we're then going to once again take some Magmadroth Flame. I'm going to add a little bit of this. Like that, around the base of the flame. Wash the brush. Give it a little blend. Like that, just to blend the two together. We'll do the same thing on the back. Wash the brush. And so finally we're going to finish off the base by adding a little dry brush of Tyrant Skull over the top of all of the soil, the rock, the skeleton, but not the flames. When dry brushing the skeleton, we just want to stick to this side of him.
So with his base all complete, Belial is now finished, the master of the Deathwing himself, and I think he looks absolutely incredible. There's so much going on with this, even though he looks kind of simple at first, but there's just so many lovely details all over this that he really is a spectacular miniature, probably one of the best for the Dark Angels so far, and I think I did a really good job, especially on that OSL and sword, eh? If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel and you'd like to support me further, you absolutely can do so by heading to patreon.com/warhipster, just like all of these wonderful amazing people have done. And alternatively, you could become a YouTube channel member by clicking on the join button below, exactly like these fabulous folks have done scrolling up on the screen before you. There are so many of you out there that it really takes my breath away, and I cannot thank you enough for everything you do, as without you I wouldn't be able to keep making these Contrast Plus videos. And if you really like this video and you want to send me a little thanks, just click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.